Back on CBS Sports HQ, looking ahead to a huge one at the Big House. The #1 team in the nation against the defending champs, and it's on CBS. Oregon at Michigan, Saturday, 3:30 Eastern Time. And Gary Danielson will be in the booth for that one, along with Brad Nessler with Jenny Dell down on the field. Gary joins us now. Let's talk Oregon first, Gary. #1 team in the land. Do you see them as the best team in the country?
No, I don't think that way, I guess. I do think they are capable of winning the national championship, and I'm not at all in any argument that they're rated #1 at this point. But I still believe there's 8 or 10 teams that they get into the playoffs. They could make a run. It's going to be difficult. You're going to have to win 3 football games against pretty equal competition. But there's no doubt in my mind, Oregon has put together, and Dan Lanning has put together the right type of team, leadership at the right spots, speed at almost every position, and a little bit more tonnage up front on that defensive line. So they've got a nice combination, but I don't think they're head and shoulders above anyone else. I think it's going to be a great playoffs, to tell you the truth.
When we talked about these new Pac-12 teams entering the Big Ten, the question was, how are these high-flying offenses going to look? Oregon, they have not taken a step back. Dylan Gabriel is the favorite to win the Heisman Trophy. How have they continued to put up yards and points behind Gabriel?
Yeah, Chris, right? I mean, they've got a formula. I mean, they attract a lot of good athletes. People have been watching Oregon football, and these young players that come out, they're attracted to their style. Dan Lanning has done a good job of taking what was there and building it. They're still explosive. They're still fast. They just seem to be built the way Dan has built from where he's learned it. He learned under Nick Saban and under Kirby Smart. They just seem to be more aggressive on defense. Their defensive line is elite. They're not even playing without their best football player on the defensive line, Jordan Birch, right now. So, yeah, I think that's a little bit of a surprise in both the SEC and the Big Ten. The 2 teams that have entered into the league that from the outside, Oregon, a kind of a Pac-12 team that everybody said could not play Big Ten football. They're leading the Big Ten, and Texas is leading the SEC. Kind of ironic.
And, of course, on the other side, you have Michigan really struggling offensively. You've seen them a couple of times this season. But they did snap that 2-game losing streak last week against Michigan State, rivalry game, which was really up in the air second quarter, and then they put 3 straight scoring drives together. Do you think they figured something out offensively?
I don't know if it's figured something out, but they've just decided to use what they have, basically. They're not elite at quarterback this year. They have to kind of play around their quarterback. I think that Davis Warren gives them the best chance because he's got the most experience this year to make their passing game. But I also like the way they're using both he and Alex Orji in the attack. I mean, I think it's silly if you don't have one quarterback that can do everything and you need both to move it. You might as well do it. But the key to Michigan is what they did against Michigan State. They played solid defense in the first half, but all the stats were slanted in favor of Michigan State. And Michigan State had the game in the palm of their hand and didn't win. But 2 important stats that is kind of Michigan football is what I think allowed them to win. They won the turnover battle, and they did not commit a lot of penalties. That's what they have to continue to do. They have to hold on to the ball, make first downs, keep the ball away from this Oregon explosive offense, and kind of play Michigan football. That's how they built the program. They have to play a clean football game. And I never, ever underestimate what a Michigan team can do at home. I mean, it's so far, Oregon's won it home against Ohio State. This will be a different test, and they still have to go to Wisconsin yet on their schedule.
And Ohio State now has to go to Penn State to take on the Nittany Lions. And that game, it's really hard to handicap right now because we don't know if Drew Aller's going to be able to play for Penn State. We don't know how effective he might be. If he is not at his best, can they still beat the Buckeyes?
I think they can, because they've built their program around being balanced. They've got, we got 4 great running backs in this football game. It's Singleton and Allen. for Penn State and Henderson and Judkins for Ohio State. But Bo Prabula came in really nicely in a tough football game, in a tough place to play. I've been doing Wisconsin games my whole career in doing college football. And that was impressive. But he was never behind when he came in that football game. So 11 for 13, but he never really had to bring the team behind. That's a question mark against this good Ohio State football team. I mean, both coaching staff, both fan bases really want this football game. I think the difference so far that I've seen, and maybe Ohio State will start to breathe a little easier now, but it still feels to me that Ohio State, the pressure on their program, they feel like they're a hunted football team and they're playing under pressure. Where I think Oregon and Penn State are hunting. They're looking to get in the playoffs. They want to make a mark. So I really look forward to the football game. A lot of great players, but I do believe Drew Aller's a big part of this, his passing attack, but I would not undersell what Penn State could do even without him.
There's still a chance at this point in the season that 3 Big Ten teams go 12-0, and one of them gets left out of the Big Ten championship game because you have Penn State, you have Oregon, you have Indiana, and they don't play each other in the regular season. But only one Group of 5 team is still unbeaten, and we have them on CBS right before your game this weekend. The Army Black Knights taking on Air Force. This was an Army team that was not expected to really do much, compete for an American Conference championship, maybe even make a bowl game. I mean, the win total was 5.5. How's Jeff Monken have this team at this level right now?
Well, first of all, I think you're correct. I think Army and Navy were both picked at the bottom of the AAC conference this year. But I think back as I was doing my prep a year ago for the Army-Navy game, I thought the turnaround game in this Army program for Jeff Monken was the Air Force game a year ago, when a 2-6 Army team went out and beat an undefeated Air Force team on the road. I think there were 6 turnovers in that game, if I remember correctly. And that was really the breakout of the shotgun Bryson Daly attack that Jeff Monken kind of steered this team away from the under center quarterback and more of a wide open triple option. Well, they're all still there. Only the records have kind of flipped. Now it's Army undefeated with Air Force visiting. So I don't know if that's a bad omen or a good omen, but I do respect the way Army's playing football. And Jeff Monken always has his team ready. I'll be peeking in a little bit because I always have that Army-Navy game at the end. It's really exciting that both the academies are playing great.
That's Gary Danielson. He's going to be on the call for the game right after that one. We start things off our doubleheader at noon Eastern time at Army, ranked number 21, unbeaten, hosting an Air Force team that, like Gary said, this is kind of a turnabout from last season where Army went in and stunned Air Force. Maybe Air Force at 1-6 can do the same thing at Army. And then Gary's on the call for number 1 Oregon in the Big House at Michigan at 3:30. It's Saturday on CBS and streaming on Paramount+.